Hello all. I hope everyone's well. We're going to look today at a mistake I'd made, and on probably a couple of videos now regarding Justin Martyr's references to the Old Testament, the New Testament. I'm sorry, and his use of certain words that Jesus says, and he's explicit in this, and it indicates that he knows some of the gospel material, um, or cue sources or harmonizations or just early references here to the New Testament, principally in Mark and Matthew, though I think there is one or two John, there might be one or two John quotes as well. And this, obviously, he mentions the memoirs of the apostles and called gospels or so-called gospels as well a couple of times. So I just really needed to correct this because I had made mention that he only very loosely and vaguely, in a non-verbatim way, quotes some of this material that was incorrect. So we're going to have a look at some of these things. Now I've got my my screen should already be shared there. Sorry, so yeah, we have here some of these quotes. Now I'm not going to read them all through, but I thought it would be worth just for comparison here. So we see obvious, very close wording, close parallel matches to Matthew and so on, Mark. Closer to Luke's and stuff here. Love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you, and bless those who curse you. As an example, turn the other cheek, obviously, offer up the other cheek. Do not resist the evil person. Lots of these are moral exhortations, and they might well have just been, it's possible, of course, that they were things circulating in oral tradition, but I definitely wanted to just ensure that people knew that now that I'm correcting this. There are about 14 references here, and clearly this shows that Justin was in receipt of some of the gospel information. I'm just going to make sure that I can also show you that, and this helps us understand that the upper limit now for what I was talking about has been condensed slightly. So gospels written after 150 or 155, yes, of course, it's still possible. These might have taken some time, but I think the core, this period here between 130 for Mark, 120 and 130, 135 maybe for Mark's gospel, because it does contain certain things that only really take place in the 130s by the Bar Kokhba revolt. I'm sorry. And the abomination of desolation that seems to echo both the 70 sacking of Jerusalem, but also the statue itself that's hinted at in Mark, and also some external evidence as well. This is all really neatly laid out in David Litwa's book, Late Revelations. So if that's Mark in about the 130s, then we can assume Matthew's written shortly after 135, 40, 50 even. Luke is, most people would suggest now that Luke is written in response to Matthew, and John comes after that. So yeah, we have a fairly decent reason now to just could stop that upper limit written in the 60s, written around the 70s for some of these gospels. That doesn't look tenable anymore. I think it's reasonable to say that there's stuff there, gospels that have been written. Now I want to add this to the stage. Why won't it let me? I'm going to do it. Okay, stop screen. I don't care how long this takes. I'm sorry. I hope some of you will still be around by the end of this. I mean, it is worth checking this out. So here we go. This shows us in another piece of kind of roundabout evidence, mentions of Mary, virgin birth, mentions of Pilate, mention of the 12 disciples. So these are things that obviously are fairly core, pieces of the narrative in the Gospels. We have none of these things with Clement, not 12 disciples anyway, only apostles, remember. Virgin births, I think, is still absent in Clement. The Epistle of Barnabas, obviously the same deal. Shepherd of Hamas, again, none of these mentions of anything like this. Ignatius of Antioch, no. Polycarp, again, none of these really important material evidentiary traits and tropes that are picked up. Papias, Quadratus, of Athens, Aristides of Athens does mention 12 disciples now for the first time, 125, 140. And again, his apology, I think, is delivered to Rome, or is coming from Rome. So that's quite interesting. So we have, again, the first rustlings, not everything, remember, but the first rustlings here coming from Rome. And this is argument from silence and the layering of these time periods and what Christians do appear to know. So just as a caveat, but it's Justin Martyr writing from Rome to Romans after being a Christian for something like 30 years. Tatian, again, after this, though, you have people like Titian not mentioning this stuff. Clement, second Clement, nothing. Hegesippus, none of these story parts, to the Bible. Miletus of Sardis, Theophilus of Antioch, not just Logos theology, even after Justin's written this, which shows us, I think, quite neatly that many Christians in the empire were still talking about another type of Christianity or looser formulations of the Christian canon. And it's not until Irenaeus, 180, and Apollinaris, people like this, that we get, not even him, the Clement of Alexandria going a little later. I didn't put Irenaeus in here because he's the first mention. And then bang, look at all of this. The first person to mention the 4 Gospels by Luke, Mark, Matthew, and John. Okay, and then even Minucius Felix, and I had it down that he actually writes around the 180s still, but again, philosophical only. So this is really interesting to think about here. And if you look, you get no mentions of these core things in the Christian story until Justin Martyr, who names them all. But again, he's still not talking much about parables. He's not talking about the stories. In many regards, he still has a fairly minimal Christology. So it's important, of course, to put these things out there when we make mistakes, to get this into the public domain quickly, to ensure that I'm doing a good job here. And this hopefully helpful. Certainly helpful to me, because it helps me condense this time window of the gospel writings, probably within something like a 20-year period. Justin isn't mentioning or the details of many, none of these stories in John, not many of the parables. I don't think he mentions miracles or these specific miracles at all, and maybe you'd think that he might do. But yeah, I put that there anyway, just for clarity's sake. I made a mistake there. I copied this mistake into my book, and I'm annoyed about that. But it will be rectified soon. So thank you, guys. And you remember as well, it doesn't throw out the vast majority of the work I've put out over the last few. It just squishes the time window for the gospel writings down a little bit from not the 50s, like 60s, 70s now. Just consolidates this time period, this time window within the first decades of the first century. Of the second century, I'm sorry. I had to do this 3 times because I'd forgotten how to use StreamYard, it appears. But anyway, thank you. Bye-bye.